Hey, young historians, how are you? We're back again with your final video lesson, and we've got the whole team here. How are you? Hey, look, we want to do one more lesson for you and just review everything that we've been doing. And we hope you're feeling okay. And if you are and you're ready to learn, can we share our screen with you right now? All right, fantastic. Let's go ahead and get started. We're so excited. Look, we're doing our 3-5 History and Social Studies Understanding Us weekly dive, and this is the wrap up. But before we get started, let's go ahead and get everyone to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Miss Barker from Westover Hills Elementary School.
Hi, I'm Miss Bauman from Linwood Holton Elementary School.
Hey everyone, this is Mrs. Cosins from Swansboro Elementary.
Hi, this is Stephanie Hooks from Oak Grove Belmead Elementary School.
Hello, young historians. This is Miss King from Woodville Elementary School.
Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Young from John B. Carey and Mary Mumford Elementary School.
And I'm Mr. Israel, the K-12 specialist for RPS. Look, let's go ahead and get started with the review. Remember, when I first came on several weeks ago, I asked you a question. What is history? Do you remember what history is? Let's think about that for a second. Remember, history is the way that we remember things that have happened. Can you say it with me? History is what? The way that we remember things that have happened. Yes, that's correct. Now, that means everything from Jamestown all the way through the Civil Rights Movement, and even till today, all of this is a part of history that we remember. But let's brainstorm a little bit. What are the ways in which we remember history? How do you remember good things which have happened in the past? Do you remember how we do that? Can we write it down? Yes, we can write history down. Can we talk with someone about it? Indeed, we can. Can we draw pictures of it? Yes. And there's one more. Do you remember? Can we make a song about it? Yes, we sure can. And now let's talk about primary sources.
So those things that you write down, the songs that you make, and the pictures that you draw, those are primary sources. A primary source is something that comes from a time being studied or from the person who was involved in the events being studied. Some examples of primary sources include diaries, letters, photographs, newspapers, advertisements, maps. Other examples of primary sources are things we see on TV, movies, interviews, music, and also oral histories. Now we're going to talk about economics.
Hi everyone. Do you remember anything about economics? Well, let's talk about some ideas we discussed during our economics lesson. We talked about some important words. The first one being what you give up when you choose one thing over another. Notice the words are all scrambled, but our first word begins with an O. Any ideas what that could be? Opportunity, very good. Our second word is quite easy. It begins with a C. Nice job, opportunity cost. Our second important word was the cost of an item. It begins with the letter M. Any ideas? Monetary, right, money. And the second word, you probably already guessed it, that's right, it's cost. And those two words together make up our final word, what you are willing to give up and how much money you have to spend. So the first word starts with an E, right again, economic. And you probably already figured it out, it's a choice. Nicely done. Now we're going to talk about government. If you recall, government is people that make laws, carry out laws, and decide if laws are broken. And that's right, we did talk about 3 levels of government. The federal government, which makes laws for our country, And then the state government, which makes laws for our state, Virginia, in red, and the local government, which makes rules for our area. In this case, Richmond, which is the box in white. Thank you for joining me. Let's learn about timelines next.
Hey everyone, during week 3, we discussed timelines. Timelines can show events in history and can also be used to show important events in your life. Those are just 2 uses, but there are lots of uses for timelines. When we did our video, we learned about 3 important characteristics. Do you remember any of them? Well, the first one is that timelines are tools that show events in the order that they happened. There was a vocabulary word that we used that week that explains that in one word. Do you remember? If you said that timelines are chronological, that's exactly right. If I say that timelines show events in the order they happened, I can also say that is chronological order, or from beginning to end. Last but not least, timelines are really important because they can show how events are related in history. Many of them show causes and effects. When we look at this timeline about the American Revolution, we can see some of those causes and effects. So the timeline that's going to come up shows us that the taxes which caused the Boston Tea Party were a cause of the American Revolutionary War to actually start happening. So during our timeline week, your mission was to create your own timeline of your life or an event that was important to you. I wanted to show you my timeline that I created of my school, Swansboro. As you might have noticed already, there's a difference between the timeline on this slide and the one in the last one. The timeline on the last slide went up and down, or vertical. This timeline goes from left to right, or horizontal. The most important thing is that no matter how a timeline looks, they can look all sorts of ways, but the events have to go in chronological order. The only way that we can make sense of history is if we start at the beginning and we go to the end. Thank you for joining me in this review. Now let's review our work on map skills.
Well, hello, young historians. We will be reviewing map skills, and we focus on geographic features. We are trying to figure out which picture is land related and which picture is water related. So let's look at the first picture. Okay. Land related? No, it's water related. Next picture. Land related or water related? Yes, land related. Next picture. If you said water related, you are correct. Next picture. Oh, wow. It is land related. Continuing on, we have land related geographic feature and water related geographic feature. Moving on to a land related geographic features, and then we have water related. Next picture, of course, is land related. Look at those valleys and ridges. And yes, we could have, there's 2 on this one, but we're actually talking about the land related features. Moving on to the next picture, we have, oh, that's a nice place to be right now, a land related feature, and last but not least, water related features. Now, we also talked about the 5 regions of Virginia, and Ms. King has already labeled the fall line. And we know that those are a natural border of waterfalls. Now, let's label which number is the coastal plain region. If you said 1, you are correct. It has flat land. You know that, right? Flat land. Next, the Valley and Ridge region. Which number is the Valley and Ridge region? If you said 4, you are correct. It has valleys and ridges. Valleys and ridges. All right, moving on to the next one, Appalachian Plateau. Which number is the Appalachian Plateau? If you said 5, you are correct. It is elevated land that's flat on top. All right, and the Blue Ridge Mountains, which number is that? If you said 3, you are correct. It has old rounded mountains, old rounded mountains. And last but certainly not least, which region is the Piedmont region? If you said 2, you are correct. They have rolling hills. That is perfect. And that's the region of Virginia that we live in. Now let's continue on with more map skills.
In week 6, we reviewed some of the different physical features of the United States. So we took it a step further. Do you remember what physical features are? Do you know which ones we reviewed? That's right. They were rivers, lakes, oceans, and mountain ranges. And if you noticed on the right, we focused on the Great Lakes. And then on the left, we kind of discussed some of the major rivers that flow throughout the United States. All right. We also talked about oceans, the different oceans of the United States. And notice we're focusing on that touch the borders of the United States. And notice that we're focusing on the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean. If I was in, let's say, San Francisco, California, which ocean would I be visiting? That's right, that would be the Pacific Ocean. We also talked about physical and political maps. When we look at our physical maps, are we focusing on political boundaries or are we focusing on landforms? That would be landforms. If you look at that map to the left, we're focusing on looking at our mountain ranges, our lowland areas, our coastal plains. The map on the right would be more of a political map. It shows us the different boundaries of states here in the United States. And then lastly, we discussed during week 6 that maps can change over time. If you notice, the map to the left shows what the United States looked like before the Louisiana Purchase. And the map on the right gives us an idea of how the United States changed over time after the purchase of the Louisiana Territory. Let's look at charts and graphs next.
In week 7, we talked about charts and graphs, and we use data to create these charts and graphs. We gather this data by observing, questioning, and measuring. And these charts and graphs can show data in different forms, and it makes this data easier to read. So we talked about 3 different types of charts and graphs: bar graphs, line graphs, and pie charts. Once we make a chart and a graph, we can look at it to identify patterns. We can figure out which game was voted most favorite by looking for the bar that is the tallest. We can look and see which game was voted the least favorite by looking for the bar that's the shortest. We can also find out how many more people voted for example, basketball than Foursquare by finding the difference. Now let's talk about Virginia resources and scarcity.
We discussed agricultural products that are produced here in Virginia. We also talked about needs and wants. We reviewed these words, but we also talked about some new terms. And those new terms were terms like scarcity, cash crops, and agriculture, which is just a big word for farming. We also talked about manufactured goods. Remember this map of Virginia? This map shows us the different regions and what they specialize in. So each region specializes in producing different products. Some of the products that we produce are agricultural products and other products are livestock. So here we see that we produce corn, peanuts, apples, tobacco, tomatoes. Cows are livestock items in Virginia that we make available for different markets. We have pigs, and we also have poultry. We also have manufactured items and non-renewable energy resources that are produced here in Virginia. Now, non-renewable energy like coal is something that's found naturally in our environment. But chips are things that are manufactured and produced to a large scale, mostly in the Tidewater region. And the last thing that we discussed during week 9 was scarcity. Scarcity is when things are in short supply. So right now, scarcity is something that's impacting each and every one of us when we go to the supermarket. Can you think of something that is scarce that you might be looking for when you go to the supermarket? It might be something like chicken, pork, or beef. These items, because of what's going on in the world, have been scarce, and we're having a hard time finding them in our supermarkets. But we also related this topic, or this, this concept of scarcity, to our environment. Our freshwater resources are shrinking, and we're finding that it's scarce and it's hard for us to find. So we have to think about ways that we can conserve our freshwater resources. Now it's time for our wrap up, our Thursday mission. We hope that you have fun with the Kahoot as you review all of these different topics that we discussed over the past 10 weeks.
We thank you so much, young historians, for being with us today, and we hope that you enjoyed the review. And from all of us here at RPS, goodbye.